Okay, the MotoGP is on today, so I need to avoid Silverstone Way, which to most riders wouldn't be an issue, but anyone who follows this channel knows that my sense of direction is beyond awful, so no doubt you'll probably see me starting on the grid. So, as my great-grandmother used to say to me, doesn't time fly when you have 200 horsepower between your legs? It's coming up now to 12 months ownership of this absolutely fantastic machine, the S1000RR from BMW. YouTube is absolutely flooded with videos on the S1000RR, and this video here is not so much a 12-month review as in spec of the bike and this is how much it costs for your annual service or any of that. This is about me and my riding style, shall we say, or my anxiety as a rider, and how I fit on this bike, because there'll be a lot of riders out there who, you know, they're older, they've got maybe a GS, they look at this S1000 and they think, oh, I'd really like that, but it's too much bike for me. And that's where this video, I think, could be useful to those types of people, or to the younger riders. They've been riding a couple of years and they're thinking, oh, is that too much bike for me? Well, to those who've ridden sports bikes all their life and, you know, they're jumping off an R1M onto an S1000RR, this video really isn't gonna, you know, teach you much, I don't think, but please stay along and watch anyway, I'd appreciate it. But to the guys who are like me, and to give you my background, so at the time of recording I am 41 years old. I have been riding for 6 years, and those 6 years were the long way round. So basically I was 2 years on an R125, and then I did my big bike test and I moved on to a Triumph Street Triple 675, which absolutely scared the crap out of me, and took me at least 6 months to get used to that bike and be able to open it up, you know, even to half of what it should be. And then from there, 3 years trying to become a better rider, and then I moved on to this S1000RR. Now, I've ridden a lot of other bikes, you know, gone out for test rides on multiple bikes, but obviously they're only an hour here or there, swapping bikes with friends, things like that. So although I have ridden a lot of other bikes, I have only owned two: the Supersport R125, which killed my back and made me say I'd never have a Supersport, and then I progressed to the Triumph Street Triple, and then this. I am an anxious rider. I did a video for guys out there who are anxious, anxious riders, nervous riders, you know, do check it out if you are in that category. Riding a bike still scares me to an extent, not like it used to. Well, I'm not at the level I want to be at, shall we put it that way. I have been on courses, I've tried to improve my riding, but I'm still a very cautious, sensible rider, you know, which is good. A healthy dose of fear keeps your brakes warm. So how have I found the RR? Well, to start with, then, the Supersport. I mean, obviously I hated the Supersport on my R125. I've ridden a lot of other Supersports in the interim, and all of those big Supersports, the litre bikes, have scared the absolute crap out of me. Like, you get on it and the bike wants to kill you. That's the feeling I got. It was like you have to ride it so gingerly, so careful. The power was just so immense. They're just frightening machines, coupled with not being very comfortable, killing your back. It's like, well, is the speed really worth that? uncomfortability? And for me, the answer was always no. So, you know, I'd jump on a Ducati, take it out for a test ride for an hour and be like, that is a lovely bike, but my back's in pieces, and you know, if I ride that, I'm just gonna die. Riding a super sport on the 600s, you know, like a Ninja, a Daytona, something like that, the power on them is not so scary, you know, so they're more fun to ride in that respect. I didn't feel like the bike was out to kill me. But again, that super sport position, it just was uncomfortable. It's like I could never see myself owning one. And then foolishly, I took this out for a test ride. And I say foolishly because the bike haunted my dreams. I am not joking. I was dreaming about this dash here, the revometer running up, the gear changes. This bike was just, you know, you're just like, ah, it's such an incredible machine because it doesn't want to kill you. But that is also, in my view, a bit of its failing, because it does encourage you to ride faster. It does encourage you to think you're a better rider than you actually are. So when you jump off this onto something older without all the electronics, you get a very quick, rude wake-up call. For a super sport, it is gotta be the most comfortable out there, because I can ride this bike for about 3 hours before I have to get off and like crack my back and stretch it out. It is very comfortable. I mean, I've got just the sport version of this with the normal seat, so it hasn't got the M seat. But there's some days you get on it and I don't know what it is, you know, just in the wrong position or riding a bit wristy or something like that, and you know, you then back crippling ride, shall we say. And the thing is, once obviously, you know, you do hammer the body. It's if you've ridden for 3 hours somewhere and your arms and your wrists and your back is killing you, and you know you've got to ride 3 hours back, it's not especially fun. And so yes, you can jump on this bike, and yes, you'll ride it for an hour and you'll come off it all sprightly and think, oh, I can handle the super sport position, because that's what I thought. But your body will soon tell you otherwise after prolonged exposure. Basically, I need to have physio to be able to ride this bike, and I ain't joking. You think to yourself, is it worth it? I mean, when you open it up, oh, it's worth it when you're on here. But then when you go home and you're walking like John Wayne the next day, you do start to question life choices. If you are a weekend warrior and you're just going out for a blast for an hour or two just at the weekend, only in fair weather conditions, then yeah, I mean, this is, you know, absolutely brilliant. You'll probably be able to cope, because I am an absolute pussy. You know, watch me on my friend John's Aprilia and you see, all right, I ham it up a bit for it, but the truth of the matter is, you know, I'm not very good on super sport bikes. So this is absolutely exceptional how it works, but there is a limit. I mean, at the end of the day, and the limit for me is my body, unfortunately. But here in the cockpit, you've got heated grips, cruise control. You've got the road mode is absolutely brilliant. I mean, it takes out so much of the bumps with its electronic suspension. Road mode is so nice. And then when you want to push on a little bit, dynamic is really good. I mean, changing here, you just flick it like that, close the throttle, the suspension really tightens up and then becomes more like what you'd expect a sports bike to feel like. It just straight away, when you go in dynamic mode, you can feel it wants to tip far easier than it does in road mode. Road mode, you're really having to engage counter steer, but in dynamic and race, it's just ready for it, and it reads your mind when you're coming up to corners. All the electrics that keep you upright are phenomenal. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. They they are unbelievable. Like the amount of times I've gone into a corner a little bit hot and, you know, ABS is engaged, I've been using the blipper and it's got me round it, you know, it lights up like a Christmas tree and says you've been a naughty boy, Dom, but I'm still here. I don't think other bikes can really say that. But the reason I'm putting myself in that position in the first place is because of how the bike makes you feel that, you know, you're the next Rossi. Straight line going and stopping is unreal on this bike. When you jump off this onto something else and you try the brakes, you then appreciate just how good at stopping this is. But the other rider aids, such as the upshifter and downshift blipper, they really do make you a lazy rider. I mean, literally, you can spend all day in second if you like the soundtrack, that is. But if you want some easy riding, just keep it in third or fourth and it will just happily go along, and you've still got everything you need. I mean, I'm halfway through the Rev'Ometer on third, you know, tacho's there, easily you've got the power. Even if you go up into 6 and you're just pootling around 6 gear, it's got the power to still be able to overtake. I mean, that just feels like, you know, any sort of slow 600 in the wrong gear. But then shifting down is so easy. But then there's the other problem. I don't think I've used that clutch apart from setting off. My rev matching is absolutely, well, it's non-existent now. I mean, look at that, Jesus. Oh God, scary. Yeah, you lose, like, cause look, I'm in third, fourth, fifth, slow down, fourth, third, second. You can just bang it. It's just so easy. If the bike's upright and straight, it will let you do whatever you want to do. You don't need that clutch anymore. And so when you go out and you're on other bikes and you're like, oh shit, I've got to use the clutch now. And like I say, my rev matching, atrocious. So the bike will make you ride faster and it will make you lazy, without a shadow of a doubt. So with the comfort, can you commute on this? Well, yes, but it depends how far your commute is, and of course weather conditions. I mean, I did a video on sports bikes suck in winter. Have a look there for all the reasons why. And if you have to commute on any sports bike, this is going to be the one. I mean, you're obviously using a sledgehammer, you know, for a picture frame nail. Although BMW did help you out for the speeding by giving you cruise control. Or it's for the PlayStation generation where, you know, they don't even want to use the throttle anymore. You can just actually ride the bike from here. It's really quite amazing. But enough of that. So what about the other electronics? Well, it's got everything a car's got. I mean, if I scroll through here, you've got different sport dashes, you've got your navigation, which actually the navigation's quite good, although if you've got a QuadLock, you can't really beat Waze or Google Maps right in front of you. But the navigation's not bad. You go in through the BMW app, it's 50-50 whether it actually finds what you're looking for. So, you know, if you put in, I don't know, the King Billy pub, it probably won't find it. If you put in something a bit more popular, then it more than likely would. But it's got a really good system on there where you say like how windy you want the route. It's really quite good at plotting you some nice scenic routes. Obviously it's got something on its database it's pulling from other riders, but yeah, I quite like the navigation actually. It's not too bad. If you If you're not using the BMW app though, and you're just inputting directly where you want to go, then it takes forever. It's a crock of shit. And what I don't like is now I'm in the navigation mode, I don't have a tachometer anymore. I've literally just got my speed up there and that's it, and I'm quite OCD about what's on my screen. I want it on there. The music, I've given up with that. Yeah, sure, it looks nice, you get your album covers, you get this, that, the other, but in reality it's a pain scrolling through, again, trying to find a track. If you've got a QuadLock and you've got it on here, you can literally just see your music as it's playing and swipe through. It's far easier. This is actually, you know, dangerous, especially on a fucking 200 horsepower superbike. The telephone, I haven't actually got my Sena connected today, but normally that will pair in there. It's hit and miss, which sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I've paired the Sena now as a second device to the bike, and I found that a bit more stable than when you just pair it primarily. I don't know what difference it makes, but if you look in the manual, you'll see you can make Sena pair as a secondary. Do that, it works better, but it's still not great. I mean, at the end of the day, answering a call on the Sena is you just click up here. You don't really need to see it on your screen down here. And again, if you got a QuadLock, you'll see who's ringing you up on your face. And then the settings are where you get all your race pro mode and everything else, so you know, that's good to delve into. But you see, all this information you got in here, it really is a bit much. Like sometimes you'll be riding along and you'll just be faffing about with tech and not riding, and that is a bit unenjoyable. You know, sometimes you'll be like, oh look, my tyre pressure's on 3 psi down. Oh, and by the way, this tyre pressure monitoring, it doesn't give you an actual on the tyre. What it's doing is it's working out ambient temperature, etc. I don't know how, I googled this, but basically whatever it's telling you on there. So my front tyre is meant to be 36, it's saying it's 34, but if I put a pressure monitor on it now, my tyre will be 36. So what it's saying is that you need to put 2 more psi in it to allow for all the factors, you know, like temperature and, you know, tyres warming up and all of that malarkey. And so everyone says trust this more than trust your gauge. I don't know what's right or wrong. I mean, it doesn't really matter to me either way. But again, all this crap, you know, you don't just jump on and ride the damn thing. You're messing around with tech. As for the modes, so this is the sport, so it has the pro race modes, and the pro race are where you can actually go in and, you know, change your engine braking, your anti-wheelie and all of that jazz. Changing basic modes is easy. Let's go in race. We're on race, we're in, that's it. I mean, if I was still on throttle, I'd have to close off the throttle to go back. To go into road, there you go, we're now in. You have to close the throttle, reopen the throttle, and then it will put you in those modes. It's probably one of the easiest. I don't know why they don't give you, like, do it on this side, why it's your throttle hand, but maybe that's there to slow you down. And then things like anti-wheelie. Yes, you can power wheelie in road and dynamic mode, and actually it's quite nice when it does it, because it will let you go up like half a meter or so, and it actually slowly lets you drop down. So when you do get it, you're like, oh, I'm the wheelie god, because you're just holding it and then it's just slowly going down. However, how to engage it, it's hit and miss. If I was better with clutch ups, I might be able to get it a bit more, but basically hooning it off the lights in first, that's a good way of doing it. So I kept talking about the speed and how the bike makes you want to ride faster, and that is a problem, because this is a license killer. It is so easy to speed on this bike. I mean, unbelievably easy. Look, I'm in 5th and I'm struggling to keep it at 60, now 50. You know, it is so easy to just, you know, roll on fifth, no revs, you know, bang, it's 10 miles an hour, you know, 20 miles an hour. If you're in the right gear, you can just so easily whack it up there and, you know, look down and see high triple figures and be like, oh. And don't get me wrong, it's really fun when you're tucked and you're in this bubble and you're going for it and the bike is just making that easy and you're leaving everybody else behind you in a blur. But when you finish the ride and you get home and you check yourself in the mirror, you then start asking yourself, is that the rider I really want to be? And if you see blue flashing lights in your mirror, you've lost your license. Not just your bike, your car. It's just too easy to do it and too fun. And you could say, well, yeah, you just use your cruise control then, you know, you can ride along at those speeds. Well, I'm bored. Look, I'm doing it now. I'm bored. I'm bored because this bike just has so much more. So, out of the box, what's this bike like? Well, it's pretty great actually. There's only a couple of things you need to change. The first being the exhaust. The exhaust is such a letdown. It's so disappointing. Yeah, it's just awful. So I've got a Pro Race can. There's a review of this if you're interested, and that just makes it what you want. You know, it's got the growl, it's got the pops and the bangs on overrun. It just lights the bike up and makes you want to ride it so much more. So definitely, you know, what you got to do. And the next thing for me was the tail tidy. I hated that tail tidy that stuck out at the back. It just looked awful. So I went with the Evotech one, and again I've got a video on how to mod that to actually make it right, because out of the box on that it's dangerous. You need to be adjusting that. But aside from that, the bike looks beautiful. I mean, obviously, you know, you can't just stop there. You know, you got to go in and just buy everything. So I've done quite a few mods to this, but they aren't really necessity. The only necessities for me was, you know, that look from the back, and definitely the exhaust. What did I wish I knew before I bought this bike? Well, the first thing is that obviously I should have taken it for a whole weekend and just ridden the life out of it to see how my body would cope long term and long miles, which, you know, very friendly with your dealer to be able to do that, because most of the times they'll only let you out for half a day at the most. But half a day should be enough for you to judge long term. And of course, if you've got a second bike, this is irrelevant. You know, if you're coming off a big adventure and you fancy one of these, you can ride it, you can own it. But there can be certain conditions, weather conditions, etc., where you're going to want something else. The other thing is, get the pillion pack. It's free for the pillion pack, and it's literally 2 bolts for the foot pegs to take them off, and the rear seat is a rear seat. You can get cowling off eBay for like 30 quid, and you sell the pillion pack from 300 to up to 450 pounds. So make sure you order the pillion pack. I went with this Hockenheim silver, and I think it's beautiful, but I must say I got a bit of buyer's remorse on the colour. If I had my time again, I would have gone with the jet black, which didn't look very good on pictures, but in the flesh I love black bikes. So go have a look at the colours in the flesh before making your decision. Nothing wrong with this Hockenheim silver, it is nice, but it's not very good in winter as well. You will come off a ride, and you know, if you're a bit OCD like me, you have to give it a quick clean, you know, a little spray at the front and get the bugs off and everything, whereas obviously black's gonna hide all that. So is this bike a first bike, or for somebody who's only been riding for a year, yes, you can ride it and you'll be able to ride it and, you know, not feel scared, and you're going to ride faster and everything else. And it's because of that I would say no, because the thing is, with only a year riding in the saddle, especially if it's just weekend riding, you haven't been around long enough to know or experience what can happen with, you know, cars jumping out in front of you when they really shouldn't, and, you know, deers jumping out in front of you, and squirrels jumping out in front of you. They're the favourite at the moment. And the thing is obviously, because the bike is easy to ride, because it fills you with confidence that you can ride faster, you're gonna ride faster. And if you haven't got the experience of knowing when to slow down, well, I'd rather be in a 40-50 mile an hour crash than a 100 mile an hour crash. Plus the other thing is, if you've only been riding a year, insuring the damn thing's going to be, well, it's going to cost you as much as the bike. But if you're somebody who's been riding, you know, I mean, take me, alright, I've been riding, what, 5 years when I got this, but 3 years only on a big bike. And, you know, and like I say, I am that nervous ninny, a technical rider. I overanalyze and overthink everything. And I'm fine with it. I mean, I absolutely adore this bike. I mean, yes, in the higher ends, in race modes and things like that, you can, you know, push on a little bit too much, but I really have gelled with this bike. And, you know, coming from someone who, you know, is scared of speed, scared of lean, scared of 200 horsepower super bikes, I love it. It's just unfortunate that my back doesn't love it. So if you're older and, you know, you got a cafe racer or an adventure bike, and you've always looked at one of these and thought, oh, I fancy a super sport. If your back's in a better condition than mine and your hips can hug the tank a bit better, then you won't be disappointed in this. If you've been riding 3-4 years and again you're in the same scenario, you can upgrade onto this. It is very, very friendly. So what are the real costs on this? Well, the bike itself is gonna stand you, I mean, on a sport version like this, you're looking at about 17 grand by the time you add on essentials like, you know, radiator guard, duty exhaust, stuff like that. You know, you're looking 17-18 grand with toys on there. They say the bike starts from 14 grand, but that's the base model version, and if you got that, it would be to make it a track bike, and you're going to be spending thousands anyway. If you go up to the M Sport, there's a lot of stuff on there that really you don't need for the road, but there is one thing that I wasn't aware of, which is on the M Sport, it has an adjuster on the back, so you could adjust the rear height. Now, the bike for me was actually just an inch or 2 inches too tall, where I was tiptoeing just a little bit too much, and if the camber was a bit too great, I was in fear of dropping it, especially with gravel. And so I actually lowered the bike on preload, but had I had the M Sport version, I could have just made that little tweak adjustment there, and then because I've lowered it on preload, the road mode now is not as good as it could be, but of course, you know, you just bypass it by going into dynamic, and everything firms up, and, you know, it then becomes reactive and, you know, where you want it basically. Which again is another reason why for me it's far easier to lean it in dynamic than it is in road. So what about insurance? Well, for me, insurance is £350 a year. Now that is based on me being 41 years old, 6 years no claims because of my bike riding. However, my missus did get into a crash out on the car, not her fault, not my fault, but I had to declare that, or rather the insurance told me I have to declare that, and so because that's not within 5 years, it's actually 3 years old, that claim now, but that has had a bit of a negative impact, so you probably could better that price. Financing one of these things, well, I put down 5 grand, and that wasn't all my money because I had a bit of dealer contribution in there and a bit of a reduction of the bike, and I got the finance company to do 3%. They matched what there was at the moment, which I think, you know, I think it's 2.8%, which you're not going to find today at the time of recording this. You'll be very lucky to get 6%, which I think is a bit crazy considering we're on negative interest, but hey ho. But basically, I'm paying £103 a month for this, which is why I couldn't say no, why I had to go for it. So 5 grand down, £100 a month for, I think it is 3 years, and there's a balloon payment at the end of the 3 years for 9.5 grand. So which, again, at the time of recording, you can't even get a Gen 1 for 9.5 grand. On the general running, I mean, I do give this a bit of a spanking, and I get about 150 miles to the tank, and the tank is roughly about 15 quid from bone dry to fill up. But it is a fantastic bike, this, absolutely brilliant. I mean, if you are a sports bike rider, you've had sports bikes all your life, you're used to litre bikes, the things you can do with this bike, you're going to absolutely love it. I mean, look there, I was actually riding along, trying to ride at 50 miles an hour, oblivious I'm doing 60. Because this 50 miles an hour, sat here, it feels like 10, it really does. Especially I've got like the taller double bubble screen, which of course makes the wind protection even better. As always, guys, I hope that was helpful, and give us a like and a comment below. It is always appreciated, and thank you as always for watching.